Hey kids, your boy's back. So I've got the round 2 matchup from Cinco to Wingo DOS today. I've noticed that my previous videos have started to run a bit long, so I think I'm rambling a bit. So I'm going to try and make this one a bit quicker, to be honest. Today I've got an Empire of Ancestral list to play. He's got a General and a Great Griffin, 1-up armor save Marshal, Wizard Master of Cosmo, a Prelate with a 2-up and a Binding Scroll, an Artificer, big unit of heavy infantry, small unit of heavy infantry, 2 units of handgunners, a big unit of Imperial Guard, a few Knights of the Sun Griffin, a cannon, a tank, and flagellants. So pretty much it looks to me like a fairly stock standard gunline type build with hard to break infantry units once he gets there and a decent counter charge threat with the steam tank and the General and Great Griffin. When we were doing pairings for this one, basically I looked at this and I feel like it's a good matchup for me, but it depends on the cannons. Like if those cannons go off, maybe I lose both my wizards in the first 2 turns, which is just makes it probably unwinnable. I guess Gore-Tex can also go crazy, but I looked at it basically and went, I think with the fact that I've got Dark Rain to help me on early turns, I've got Shamanism to really mess with his cannon. It really depended on 1, how well that cannon can do on the early turns, and 2, if after the early turns I could deal with the cannon so that he couldn't ruin my day basically. So if that didn't happen, I felt like I was in a good spot to get a really good result in this one. And I guess we'll get started. Oh, not working yet. Hang on. Alright. So this is after my turn 1 movement. Basically, the deployment was attack a defender. My opponent won sides and picked the bottom. He gave himself the big flanks and me the big middle. And I stacked my whole army like 15 up in my middle section. So the chariots, as you can see, didn't really... I don't know, maybe it's hard to tell the distance, but they didn't move that far up because basically what I'm trying to do there is my shaman could just draw a line of sight to the corner of the cannon down there, which meant that I could threaten Swarm of Insects on that. And if I get lucky with that, maybe I can take it out turn 1 even. The giants over on the right, I had sort of initially... I deployed everything to go first. And pretty much what I thought there was that I was more thinking my opponent was likely to be deploying sort of left corner rather than right corner. And they'd be able to get over it more quickly, obviously. But also, sort of they, with their vanguards, be able to play with that hill a little bit, potentially, depending on what's over there. But it was sort of 6 of one, half a dozen the other, which side the 2 giants went on, which side the 2 Gore-Tex went on. So it's not... I'm not sure if there was a particularly right answer for that. Where they've ended now, basically, I've got the one, obviously, in front of his handgunners down there with his Cosmo Wizard there, and it can't be seen by the Griffin or the Imperial Guard, and because of the position of the Griffin, the tank also can't get a charge onto it. So basically, I'm just sort of messing about and seeing what I can do from that position. Like, he might shoot me with everything and kill me, but I'm drawing a lot of attention down there while my other stuff moves up. And I'm sort of... My vague plan is I want to deal with the cannon, and once I've dealt with the cannon, I can engage properly. From his position to start off with, I realised that basically, if I move up the Warhounds to chaff, I can get that Gorgon onto the hill, and there was no way for the Knights of the Sun Griffin to get out anywhere. So I decided, which I don't normally do, just commit my chaff turn 1, because it got my Gorgons in a really dangerous position. So obviously, as you can see, he's got quite a few things to deal with. It'd be scarier if my Chariot characters were up further, but that was the only place I could get them to shoot at the cannon, so I just took that as a trade-off, basically. And this is just after my magic phase, so basically I got off Chilling Howl aura so that it's hitting both of his crossbowman units, his cannon and his steam tank. Maybe doesn't do that much with the cannon and the steam tank because they're winning on 2s, goes to 3s, but it's at least helpful and gives him another way that he can fail, basically. And I got a Totem Beast in just to the right of that heavy infantry unit that's protecting the cannon. There wasn't enough room to sit him in between the cannon and the heavy infantry, so I figured, again, just like the giant, he'd be annoying sitting in there, and maybe he gets to the cannon if he can break those heavy infantry. Okay, this is after my opponent's movements by the look of it. So the Flagellants failed to charge, they went into the Warhounds. The Sun Griffin just sort of, like, I don't know what they're really going to do there, but they didn't have many good places to go, so I think they just accepted they were going to get charged by the Gortak. Other than that, the Steam Tank is obviously looking down, probably hoping to shoot that giant. Everything else just turned so that the giant can't do too much damage, because if I charge those handgunners, it's unlikely that I break them, and then I'll just get countercharged by everything that wants to. He also popped his wizard over into the Imperial Guard on the far right, because that, I guess he's, like, I can't see him, and then that keeps him safe if I do end up charging the handgunners. Should have one after his shooting, I assume. Yeah, okay, so after shooting and magic, there's 2 wounds on the Gorgon, and he put 4 wounds onto the giant. I think from memory he was a bit unlucky with the stuff going at the giant, but I was happy to have him still alive. And he also minused his strength, so I'd only be strength 4, so I'm not really doing that much damage to anyone. Anyway, so really, I think you'll see on my next one. Yeah, so basically what I've done after his turn is I've just committed the 2 Gorgons on the left, because, I mean, one Gorgon beats 3 Knights to the Sun Griffin, and the other Gorgon's going to beat the Flagellants unless something goes really wrong. I didn't want to charge anything with the Wounded Giant, because it just felt like I was going to be taking away a real annoying threat without getting any compensation, basically. So I might do some damage to those handgunners, but in the end I probably just lose my Gorgon, and he gets to reform and assess my position again after he kills it. The Totem Beast down the bottom is just basically chilling in a fight with those heavy infantry. I think it took them like 3 rounds of combat to even put a wound on him, because he got pretty unlucky, but I mean, I'm happy to just engage them. Oh, I should say as well, the objective in this one was scoring units. So as you can see in the top right, I've got my big Wildhorn block. And one of my ambushes came on in this turn, and I chucked him in the top left unit, in top left corner. So basically I'm just thinking, then, like, if there was a spot where they could threaten the cannon, I probably would have brought them on. But where they are, I don't think they're doing much. They're just putting themselves in danger if I come anywhere, and it's more valuable for me not to lose them. Particularly because with the Gorgon into the Knights of the Sun Griffin, I'm going to go up 1-0 on scoring, so if he gets nothing, even if the rest of the game doesn't go well for me, I'm going to win scoring just by getting that unit. Yeah, so hopefully there's another one at the end of this. Yeah, okay. So this is after my, like the end of my turn, basically. I was a little bit worried because what I didn't mention before, because I forgot it, is those Chariots tried to charge the flank of the Steam Tank. They needed, I think, a 9 on the dice and didn't make it. And then where they are, I think the Steam Tank needs a 13 to get to them. I still think that I, on average, outgrind the Steam Tank, but it's one of those things where, particularly because he's got such a good save, it could go either way if I get a bit unlucky. So I chucked Stone Skin on my unit to basically make that not gonna, like, I'll be fine, I think, when I'm toughness 8 on all those guys. So it was a little bit, like, the magic probably would have been better somewhere else, but it's the way it worked out. Actually, it was a little bit of a risk putting it through, because I had 3 dice left and my opponent had nothing. So I think I needed a 7 to get the Stone Skin off, and maybe with my +2, a 3 to get Swarm of Insects off. And I went 2 dice and 1 dice and managed to get them both. So took a risk, but it managed to pay off. And yeah, you can see I did 3 wounds to his cannon down there. And it'll have -1 to hit, which is handy. And my Gorgon cleaned up the Knights of the Sun Griffin. I wanted to actually restrain, because I thought he was going off the board anyway. But I failed that, so it doesn't matter. And the other Gorgon, like he went nuts. I think he did. Well, there's 4 guys left, so he must have done like 15 wounds from his impact, his attacks, and his Thunderstomp. But he's basically in the perfect position there, because he'll kill them on my opponent's turn, and I'll be protected from a round of shooting by doing that. What's this? This is evidently after my opponent's combat. Yeah, it must be. Okay, so he's basically he did another wound onto the Gorgon. His shooting unit put 2 or 3 more onto the bottom Gorgon. So basically I've got one that's on 1 wound and one that's on 3 wounds now. But otherwise was pretty conservative with positioning everything. He tried to put the steam tank in over on the giant, didn't reach him, and then didn't hit it, I think, with the cannon. So giant sitting there with what is looking like a pretty good charge at the Imperial Guard, because the wizard has no save, and only the BSB is higher agility than a charging giant, and he's only got 3 attacks at strength 4, so that giant not dying is now actually really, really helpful. Yep, okay, so that's what I did. As you can see, this is after my movement. A couple of things happened. So down, I'll zoom in a little bit, down over here where I had the Gortak like roughly on the corner of the field, I had sort of a decision to make here, and I'm still not really sure if I made the right call. But if I charge the heavy infantry, who've got +1 to their aim from the Cosmo spell, by the way, if I charge them, they get... if I charge the heavy infantry, the handgunners behind them have the +1 aim, so their stand and shoot as a support unit is going to be hitting on 4s. And the average there is like around about 2 wounds. So obviously when I've got 3 wounds left, it's pretty reasonable that I might die. If I charge the handgunners, obviously I still get standard shot against. So what I was considering is just not charging so that he has to, at least in his shooting phase, dedicate resources to trying to finish off one of the Gorgons. But I wasn't sure if that was the best idea, because it feels like I'm not really doing anything. Like I've got these good combat pieces that I'm not very active with. And if I do get into his... so I pivoted in the last combat, basically, so that I could get into the handgunners if I wanted to. And looks like it's roughly, basically, I'd corner clip him there. So I would likely live in combat if I did get in. So I decided to go for it, charge them and see what happened, and basically their standard shoot took me off. So I'm still not sure what the best call was there, but I'm not thinking that was too bad a decision, basically. And then I did end up, my chariots needed a 9 to get into the heavy infantry, and I just sent them in because it might take me a few rounds, but I'll definitely kill those guys eventually. Oh, we're going all the way up. Okay. And then, yeah, I don't really know what I was doing. I didn't know what this giant was going to do. So the giant who was behind the hill before, he can't threaten the steam tanks. He's got too low armor piercing. He can't really threaten the heavy infantry for the same reason, and just because of their weight of attacks. But I didn't really want to waste him, so I chucked him there, and if the steam tank charged him, I would... Basically, he couldn't overrun into my gargoyles, and I was sort of... it was probably just pretty dumb when I didn't have an idea with him to put him where I did, but... I mean... Yeah, I don't have a better plan. I don't have a good plan with him, but I think doing nothing would have been better than what I did, basically. But overall, in the position of the game, I'm pretty happy because I'm engaging that heavy infantry unit down the bottom with my Totem Beast, and there's a decent chance that I pick up another scoring unit there. My giant going into his wizard's unit, I'm very confident I will kill him. And then my chariots are going to probably pick up that heavy infantry unit eventually. And there's... if my chariots are in combat, they're protected from the cannon, so I'm happy with that. And there's basically... If I take down the cannon, not really anything I'm too worried about in terms of combat threats down there, because I've got really good magic support. He's soon to have none. And realistically, my chariots are just sort of better than all his combat units, so they can fight pretty much anything. Steam Tank's really the only variable one, or if he manages to stack combat res. Then with magic, good things happened. So, I think I tried to cast the Master of Earth to add his cannon, and he stopped that. And then I managed to get a Totem Beast down, which is just in front of his Griffin there, and his Breath Weapon killed the cannon. So I'm loving life. I did manage to heal a wound on the Gortak by casting something. I'm not sure. I don't have any spells up, so maybe it was just the regain. I don't want to regain too, so possibly I even got off the Master of Earth and just didn't kill the cannon. But whatever happened, the cannon was killed by the Totem Beast, and I got a wound back on that Gortak, which is handy. My giant killed his wizard and then died to the return attacks. And I killed a whole bunch of heavy infantry on the charge. This looks like a bit of a jump. So what have we got? From here, basically his Griffin charged my giant, which I didn't actually see before. I'm not really sure why, because it's relatively close. So I just decided to flee that because, as I said, I didn't have a good plan for the giant, so I figured fleeing is better than nothing. And then he ended up sending the Steam Tank after it. So what are we up to here? So this has got to be after my next turn's movement phase. So I've cleaned up... Oh, shit. And really important in this last one as well. When I killed the cannon, the unit of handgunners with the Artificer failed their panic check, so they ran off the board, which was a good bit of luck, basically. There's a good chance they killed that Gorgon, I think, if they just stand there. So I'd clean up their points with the chariots, but I'd have a dead Gorgon, so it's probably a rough wash of points overall. So it was really handy to have them fail a panic check. But I had been making my opponent take quite a few leadership tests with like the Totem Beast and various other things. So when a lot of them are not rerollable, it's kind of reasonable, I guess, that some of them would be failed, because he could have even just failed the terror check from the Gortak when I charged him, and he did 3 wounds on the stand and shoot. So with the stuff on the left being outside of BSB range, eventually something failing is not too wild, I don't think. And yeah, basically to explain this, I've put down my other Wildhorn ambushes on the far left. I've killed the heavy infantry unit. He's killed the Totem Beast finally with the support of his Imperial Guard, and his Steam Tank's just going up to try and chase that giant. I think there's going to be pretty sparse screenshots from here, to be honest, because the game's like not finished, but there's not really anything I can force from here, and he probably doesn't want to fight me anyway. So what did I do here? This actually, I don't know, this must be his turn, or maybe this is after my combat, because it took me 3 rounds to kill the heavy infantry, because I can't be in a situation where I can charge that Griffin, because I would have. But then it was my turn because I've done all that. I don't know why I didn't charge the Griffin then. There must be a reason. There must be something that's happened here. Oh, this is probably just after my movement. I probably cleaned up the heavy infantry, and then on my turn I wasn't close enough to charge the Griffin or something from where I was, so I just moved instead. No. Okay, sorry, I'm going on a loop here. I wasn't able to restrain, so I broke the heavy infantry, and then I ran off the board with my overrun check, because I rolled a 10 to restrain. So this is me after I've come back on, and then that's why I couldn't charge. Okay, solve the mystery. And I think in my magic, I I got another Totem Beast down, which basically I was just trying to get over and shoot the Imperial Guard unit and try and get... Oh, sorry, not the Imperial Guard, the Heavy Infantry unit, which you can see I got down to 1 man left. I would have thought I would have tried to get a wound on my Gortak, but I haven't, so I don't know what's happened there. And this, I think, is the last one. No, there's a couple more. Okay. Yeah, so basically, this is after, in my turn, I charged the handgunners. They fled over the Griffin, and everything's basically just trying to get away. I'm trying to make sure my Gorgon doesn't die. The steam tank up there rolled pretty high and got into the Giant and killed him because he was fleeing, which is, yeah, again, I just sort of just left him back, basically, because he wasn't providing any value, and now I've just lost him for literally no gain. I charged my Totem Beast in the rear of his Imperial Guard because they're actually 4 wide and facing sort of northeast, because I force a break test probably, and anything can happen and he's not worth any points, so I didn't break him. But I took the chance because it was worth nothing to lose him anyway. Are we still going? How far have we gone? Okay. And so basically here, he rallied his guys. I actually declared a charge with those Wildhorns, trying to get into the Griffin, because basically if I declared a challenge with my champion, I'd win by at least 1 and he wouldn't be able to reroll it. And I would be in range of the hill for Stone Skin or the Totem, as you can see up the top that he let through. So I was actually kind of, if I got that charge off, I'd be pretty okay with fighting the combat. I'm not 100% sure why my opponent ended up letting through the distracting totem on them. I guess because he knew charge, 4 wounds. Oh, he could have won. I don't know. But basically he let that through, which meant that he was never going to charge them anyway. And when I was looking at the scores at this point, I was like, for the brackets, I was 160 points from going down, and I just figured after I charged the last heavy infantry who was chaffing my Chariot block that I didn't want something to go really wrong. Like if his Imperial Guard charge my block, they're gonna stick. They charge my Chariots. They're gonna stick, and all that does is give me an opportunity to whiff and potentially lose them. So I just started to chaff him so he couldn't charge me anyway. I should have done it a bit better. I should have angled them a bit so that if 1 Gargoyle remained, I wouldn't be fleeing through my unit. But it didn't matter anyway in the end. Because, he just got there, killed them all, I think. So no one cared, and he didn't charge the Wildhorns up the top. And this is the last slide. The end result was, I think I was 910 points up, so it was a 13-7 on points, but I'd easily won the objective, so I went to a 16-4 to me, which I was pretty happy with. I don't really think that anything in this game was particularly special or clever. I don't think my opponent made many mistakes. Maybe on a macro level, I don't know EOS well enough to say, but maybe a different sort of deployment idea would have worked better for him. I'm not really sure. Potentially giving him more chances. If there's some EOS expert out there who would have approached this game really differently, maybe it would have been a very different result. But from my view of the lists, it was sort of just, as I said at the start, a case of what does his cannons do, and if it's not enough, then I'm going to win fairly easily because he can't beat me in combat. My units are too tough for him. And he can get some points, obviously, with maybe his Griffin or his tank or Imperial Guard, but particularly the way it worked out with where things were deployed across from the Gortaks was the Gortaks, if they get into combat, are going to munch, and the Chariots are unstoppable. So I had, from the cannon not popping off, fairly safe points in my hand because I had all the characters alive. I was always going to have my Wildhorns alive as well. And then I had a really good shot at getting the objective. So it was sort of swingy only based on the the cannons, but then easy decisions, I think, for both my opponent and I to make, because I was always happy fighting basically anything, and he didn't want to fight very much in my list, so he was just trying to shoot and avoid losing points. So not one of those games with any particularly clever movement shenanigans or anything. It was kind of just me charging forward and hoping cannons don't kill me. I hope you enjoyed this report, though. It looks like it's a little bit quicker than the previous ones. About 25 minutes at the moment. My team is going well in the round. It's not actually done yet. We're up 54 to 26. Does that work out? Yeah, 54 to 26. So if our last game, which is happening in about 2.5 hours, if we get an 11 in that, we should be getting another cap, which is really good. We're flying higher than I expected at this tournament. Because we got some really good performances from the other guys in the team. This was a green matchup, so like getting a 16 is sort of I'd say expect, but like as in with the pairings and the way that it works, because I've given myself a green matchup, it's like I need to get good points for the team. But a couple of my teammates in yellow matchups pulled off big wins, so they really helped out. That's like the reason why we've done well in this round so far. Anyway, guys, thanks for sticking around for all that. I'll catch you on the next one.